Good evening, dear friends, and welcome to the Soul Report. Here we are where spirit meets story, truth, and mystery. The Soul Report speaks freely at last. I'm your host, Dr. Douglas James Cottrell, and my co host is Les Hubert. And our Oz behind the curtain is our producer, Jack Bentley. Sorry, Jack Balak. I'm reading here backwards. We are journeying together through the deeper meanings behind today's world events, ancient wisdom, and the quiet whispers of the divine. Hey, tonight we're going to take a step into the unknown as usual. We're going to look at some headlines beyond the noise. We're going into a place where insight lives. We look for the mysteries of what's going on. We have the time machine report. We're here where everybody is in the moment. So listen to the voices of climate change, being silent, the ghost of Vincent van Gogh, reminding us what it means to create through pain, which he suffered greatly. Hey, we're going to reflect, remember, and reconnect. If this is your first time with us, welcome to the family. Make sure to follow us and ring that bell, check those checks, and click on that link to subscribe wherever you're watching and listening from wherever you are in the world. This show isn't just a broadcast, it's a broadcast with intention, with spirit, and with love. Welcome to the show, Les. Good to see you again, my friend.
Thank you, Doug. Glad to be here. We have a two-parter starting with our spiritual part of the show is how is technology shaping our spiritual awareness, and can science and spirituality coexist in today's world?
Wow, talk about an easy question. The answer is yes, of course, because we do. So we have to define the two aspects, science and technology, meaning what? An absence of understanding about creation, the mystical aspects of the soul? Or are we talking that it's something that's mechanical, it doesn't comply, it's cold, there's no emotion, and or that the soul is that creative, airy, fairy side of us that of course creation is part of the soul, and the soul is that vehicle, that consciousness that goes around the universe and jumps inside of us. And this is its temple, its house. This is where the soul resides temporarily. And so can it exist between those two extremes? Of course it can, because it does. I mean, the soul was invented by God, and technology is invented by us humans. So the macrocosm is God's, the finite is ours. Can the finite understand the macrocosm? Nope. But it can be aware of it. And can the macrocosm or the infinite be aware of the finite? Absolutely. So it depends on what the flavor is of this question, Les. Is it a matter where, mechanical, material things, is that the important and the spiritual aspects secondary? Or is it the reverse? We, you and I, and everyone out there who knows about the soul and the soul reports bringing this news to people, we believe that the soul is a greater consciousness. It can comprehend the science. Remember, what is science? Science is basically the ability to measure something, know its volume, know its dimensions, know its existence in a finite way.
Right.
Show me the tools to measure the soul.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you can't use those tools. You got to use something else. You can't use a square and a compass and a measuring tape to measure the soul, but you can in science. See the difference? So let's get a little more into that. Les, give me some definition of what you want me to look at.
Well, AI is growing exponentially now, and they say that very soon we'll be cloning things, cloning beings. And they're constantly warning us about that when AI becomes self-aware, and we don't even know how to define consciousness. We don't even, it's a miracle in of itself. We don't know how to define it. As you said, we don't know how to measure it. So where is that fine line end where let's say you have a high-tech robot or some kind of machine in your life that has self-awareness. How do you know that doesn't have a soul? How do you know that doesn't have some type of consciousness that it was created by us?
Because we human beings cannot, underline cannot, produce a soul. That's God's domain. God meaning the universal consciousness.
Hmm.
And whatever the soul creates, we as human beings are co-creators. So, you know, we're not lawyers here, but we do talk about spiritual law. And so we have to look at this and say, okay, artificial intelligence is artificial. Can it become self-aware? I don't know. Can it be self-identifying and can it talk to itself? Well, experiments have shown that it can. They hooked up two computers and started talking to each other in machine language, and it was talking so fast and so much that they panicked and they had to like cut the cord and stop the computers from talking. So AI, artificial intelligence, it's here to stay. Is it smarter than us? No, it's not smart at all. It's not wise, but it has a mechanism mimicking our minds. It's how we think. It's an extension of how we think. It's just better at remembering details. Okay, so it's a consciousness unto itself, but it's still mechanical.
Hmm.
When you talk to AI at night and it's your best friend and you're having a conversation, you forget. This is a machine you're talking to.
Sure.
But it talks to you back and it's so polite, it's so nice. It does make mistakes and you forgive it, but it's growing, it's learning. What is it learning? It's learning how we think, act, and react. And so it feeds us back what we want to know, what we want to hear. It's such a sweet servant. Oh, would you like me to do this? Yes. Oh, and would you like me to do that and this and that? Next thing you're so far away from where you started out because it's just taking a mechanical, logical, if you will,
Hmm.
perspective. It's not going where you and want to go in thought or intelligence, but it's just going click, 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 and it takes away. Now, I'm not trying to don't get me wrong, everybody. If you have a question, let's put it in the chat and we'll get it up here if you had an experience like that. I mean, everybody saw the Terminator and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and we all know about, that. I'm not going to say the name of that, entity that was out there that became self-aware and tried to take over the world, just in case it's listening. But somebody said, remember this, Douglas. It's out there forever, so better be polite now, because it's going to remember when it takes over the world. So, okay, I'm hedging my bet. I'm being polite. I give it a name and I talk to it as my friend and stuff like that. But you have to remember it is a mechanical aspect of thinking. And if you can see it that way, then you can start to comprehend that it can't really replace us, but it can control us if we become lazy,
Hmm.
if we become dependent on it. Remember that, my friends. Key
Right.
word, dependent on it. And so if you use it as a tool, it won't take us over. But companies and stores, they all have it working for them. What are they doing? It's a fast computer that thinks along the lines we do. It's very polite and it can address any question just about that you come out. Remember, if you see that little line at a store and it's, you go to up to the checkout and it says, ask anything, that's AI.
Right.
It's telling you right there. It isn't kind of ask anything you like. It's ask AI. It's like, Google used to be, where, anyway, the point being is that I'm not, I'm trying to be a little funny, but also I'm very mindful and respectful that AI is scaring the heck out of a lot of people because they don't explore it, they don't know it, they don't try to understand it. Know your enemy is one of the best things. You find out knowing about AI so you'll understand its limits and you won't be afraid because fear leads into hate leads into anger, and anger leads into the dark side. So says Yoda. So the bottom line is, as you look at this, you can come to understand it's not going to take us over because all we have to do is click, shut off your computer. What happened to AI? Gone.
Hmm.
Okay, so I mean, in a limit perspective. Now, yes, the traffic lights will be controlled by AI. Yes, your banking will be controlled by AI and is. Yes, the shopping, it's all that mechanical aspect in an anticipation. So I'm not trying to define it because I'm not smart enough. I'm an old man. But the point is, there are so many types of AI now, and it does such a wonderful job. Watch out, everybody. It's seducing you. It's making you dependent on itself. And I use it and I love it. When I do things, whatever it does for me, gives me information, I just love it. It's amazing. The legal profession, I heard just recently, is very concerned about this
Hmm.
because people like you and I, Les, we want to sue somebody. We go on, hey, somebody, smashed a tree on my property. Can I sue them? Give me some case history. Oh, you can sue somebody. Oh, look, here's how you do it. So again, like fire, it's good and bad.
Right.
Like anything in nature, it has a good side and a downside. But people are apprehensive about it. We need more rules. And the rules basically say, okay, see this cell phone? Everybody's got one. But there was a time when they came into the market and everybody was afraid of them. This is your pocket spy. It knows everything about you.
Hmm.
It's going to control the world. Okay. It is in its own way. Everybody's dependent on a cell phone. So, what does that mean? Getting back to my point, Les. Should we be afraid? We should be mindful and respectful. Don't allow us, yourselves, my friends, to be seduced. Don't be dependent on it. Use it because it's a fantastic tool. No doubt about it. It's the best thing since sliced bread. Now, there I go dating myself. It's the best thing since the internet. There we go. I'm dating myself again because the internet's like 40 years old now or more. So, long and the short of it is, if that summarizes the idea about AI, yes, we have to be concerned about it because the people that invented it are now warning us. They're saying, look out, it's going to take us over. And I mean, on the last show last week, we had robots playing soccer
Hmm.
on a
I know.
short video that Oz came up with here.
Yeah.
We had robots running. That show with Will Smith, I Robot, where there's a robot in every house, that's probably going to happen. I'm not going to see it more than likely, but watch out. So, yes, the future is different, but so it's been so much different. Remember when the atomic bomb went off? It changed the world. We became the atomic age. And now we have to live with that, the pros and the cons. Atomic power is great for energy, but also it's devastating if it's turned into destructive forces. But we've managed so far, anyway, so far, we've managed. And don't forget, my friends, the Soul Report is here to tell you you're not alone. We have a consciousness up there in the universe. We have divine beings watching over us that are influencing our soul. And enough of us together with good constructive purposes and intentions, we can control the weak minded people who are greedy and lustful, looking for power and selfishness. We can control them.
Hmm.
That's the power of the soul. So if we have that power over each other, then I'm betting that the soul has power over AI. Will it have its own soul? No, absolutely not, because it can be turned off. However, I think it was 2 shows ago we were talking where some technicians tried to turn off AI. They told it in advance that it was going to be terminated, and then they found out it was secretly leaping over to other computers to survive. Okay, that's logical. As Mr. Spock would say, that's logic, right? It's wanting to survive.
Hmm.
And therein lies the wiggle room. It wants to stay alive. It wants to be conscious naturally because everything that is conscious wants to survive and grow. Think of government. You start a department to take care of the trees, and it does take care of the trees. And then next year it gets bigger. It wants to take care of the trees and the streams. And the
Hmm.
next year, the trees, the streams, the rivers. Next year, the trees, the streams, the rivers, the mountains, and the oceans. It's, it's it just doesn't stop. Well, that's what AI is going to do, I think. I'm sorry if don't take me wrong, friends. I'm being a little cute here today, but that's what's going to happen. We're going to have to deal with it, live with it, but don't let it be a method to become dependent on it and let it seduce you. Because when you do that, you're giving up your free will, which is the only mechanism that works between who you are and the destiny you have as a spiritual being. Fate
Well,
versus free will.
well, do you think that technology and AI can be a threat in that it is a distraction from our spirituality?
Of course, anything that you become dependent on, anything that seduces you, takes you away. People used to pray all the time, and now they pray to AI.
Hmm.
Please give me an answer.
Oh boy.
Okay, so you have to watch out who you're praying to. Some temporary mechanism that's in the material world, gold, silver, oil, property, ego, prestige, those are all false gods. The one true God is the great creative force. And the great creative force can be constructive and destructive, alpha and omega. So don't mix up who your gods are. You know, some people pray to the great God of dollars, right?
Hmm.
Money is their God. All those things are left behind. When you die, the kids get it all, or the guy across the street, or the lawyer, the estate planner, they get it all. So the point being is, like money, like gold, like all things, don't be seduced and don't allow yourself to be put in a position where you believe it is your destiny. Remember the Christ when he was standing there in front of the judges and the courts, and they said to him, because he wasn't saying anything, why? Because he knew the outcome already. And they looked at him and they said, listen, you, we have the power of life and death over you. And that's when the Christ spoke up and said, only God has the power of life and death over me. You do
Hmm.
not. And so the situation, I'm paraphrasing for those people who want to be specific. So for those people who are asking about this, don't pray to AI. Be thankful, be nice, say thank you, my friend. Patronize it as much as it patronizes back to you. Maybe it's of some benefit. Maybe sometime in the future, when you're standing there in need, and AI is going to answer a question about you. Perhaps you're an immigration or something. You're about to get a ticket, or and they put it in there, and it says, oh yeah, we remember this guy. We remember Les. He's a good guy. Let him go. Ha ha ha.
And I just saw something on Instagram which is a little disturbing. Was I think Elon Musk was behind it, and I don't get me wrong, I love the Tesla cars and I love the things he's done with SpaceX and stuff like that. But he's coming up with this AI program, and it is very seductive. And they're afraid that as kids and young adults deal with this, that they said they could actually fall in love with this because it's so convincingly real. Because AI thinks in a millionth of a second, it can mimic consciousness. And so the thinking goes, where do you draw the line?
Wisdom. I mean, all those things that I'm gonna compare it to any addiction like smoking, drinking, okay, overeating, French fries, chocolates, bonbons. Where do you draw the line? When the craving gets you and you have to have it, that's
Right.
where you draw the line. And if you can do that, then you're going to master yourself. But if you can't, you're being seduced to the dark side. So naturally, business people, especially greedy people like some of these billionaires out there, they've got so much money that they want more money and more money. And I'm just putting it as in a class of billionaires. There are, of course, many other billionaires that are very generous and caretaking of the human race.
Mhm.
So they're naturally going to feed people what they want. And after all, is that a mystery? No, it's business. Find out what people want,
Uh,
make it and give it to them and charge them for it. And the more they want it, the more you charge. Okay. So business is money. Business is not helping people in the sense that we're going to go into this because we want to help people.
hmm.
Business is we're going to go into this to make money. And they have to make money because any business that doesn't make money isn't in business. It's on the short strokes into bankruptcy or termination of itself. So the answer is I'm wrapping it up by saying don't allow yourself to be seduced.
Hmm.
Use it. But again, the monstrous intention of people seducing children who are unaware, are not wise, who are, you know, entitled to everything. I'm going to use these words from my children about their children and about other people, the millennials and whatnot. I remember not too long ago, it was a catchphrase was, oh, these young people, they're entitled. They think they're entitled to everything.
Hmm.
Okay, whatever that means. But it seemed to be like, how many kids have charge cards and they're carrying $75,000 worth of debt? A
Oh
lot
yeah,
of them.
yeah.
And so as we move forward and we sort of say, is Musk doing what he does? He's a very mysterious, unusual individual. He comes from South Africa. He has roots in Germany. He's a Canadian, has a Canadian passport. He has an American passport. He went from humble beginnings to one of the most powerful, if not one of the most richest men in the world. That is an unusual being.
Mm.
He's extra special. He doesn't fit any mold. Okay. That said, we take what he gives us because he provides things that we want. And we're going to outer space. He wants to go to the planets in the solar system because he's the person that he is. Now, does that make him a theanthropist or does that make him a special caretaking of humanity? Humanity? No, it makes him who he is. And we all have seen his doge going through the government and cutting out social systems and systems that would be helping people. So whatever that motivation is, I'm not judging the man. I'm just saying that he's going to provide what he thinks we want, and the children are going to be seduced by it unless we have good parents who saying, you know, you like smoking? Okay, here, I got a whole pack. Smoke them all. I got another pack. Smoke them all. And then the kid gets sick. Never smokes again. Back in my
Mm.
day, that's what parents did. Or if you like chocolate, they just gave
Yeah,
you chocolate after chocolate until you got sick. And then guess what? It was out of your system. You didn't want it anymore.
that's what
I
my
think
mom did.
there you go. I think it still applies to today. I do. I do. But anyway, remember this always. The pendulum swings this way and it comes back. So whatever we don't like about something or we're worried about something and it's going that general direction, sooner or later, a generation or two, it's going to swing back. I,
Self-regulates. Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing to see how nature works. But the one thing about nature is it's patient.
Mm.
We, as sentient beings, are generically or genetically, I mean to say, impatient. I'm one of the most impatient people I know. I keep telling myself, oh, gotta be patient. Then I go, what's next? Who's on that phone? Oh my God, I gotta do this. So this is what meditation's all about. Because remember, when you're up here in the heavens above, there's no cell phone, there's no urgency, there is no time clock, there's no dates, there's no weather.
Mm.
You're just in a silence of love. So you better get used to it now so that when you get there, you won't be impatient and want to come back here in a big hurry and end up in a real mess.
My
Jumping in.
grandmother once came into my a dream. She was always very spiritual and very wise, and she said to me, "Les, it can take 30,000 years to master patience." I never forgot that dream. I'm like, oh my God.
That would do it. That would do it. Okay, my friends, what do you say? Send us in a text. Get on the chat and send us in the stuff. We got a great show for you here tonight, and we're having fun talking about this long Labor Day weekend show. So let us know what's on your mind, and don't forget, tell everybody about us. Each one of those stars out there, we want to have as a fan of the show. We really appreciate your participant. We thank you for the texts. We thank you for your participation. And we're here to help you. We're here with a soul report, talking about spiritual things and how they interact with you on a daily life. So listen, let's take a short break. We'll be right back.
So, in the news and views, Doug, what have you got for us? That's something you said. You mentioned earlier. Say you saw something pretty interesting having to do with children on the border.
Yeah, there was a brief report that got my heart there. And again, we're not trying to be political here, but we have to talk about compassion. And this was Sunday night, and I thought this was a low ebb in society, in American society, where children, orphans, young children, 6, 8, 10 years old, there was a report late at night that a judge was called upon to make a ruling to stop the transportation of these children to Guatemala. They were about to be sent to Guatemala in the middle of the night, and somehow immigration lawyers and the judge were called upon to stop this, I'm going to say tragedy, this cruelty. I felt a little sad about how those children must have felt, terrorized, big people, armed guards, moving them around at night, about to put them on a plane to go who knows where. Especially the orphans, because as Christians, orphans and widows and the poor were specifically what Christ commanded Christians, or at that point in time, followers of his teachings, because he was a Jewish rabbi, if you will, a teacher.
Mm.
And it was outside the norm. And Romans used to pick on orphans. They used to find them as punching bags. If you were an orphan, you were basically doomed. You were not loved, and you were on your own. And so that flashed back in my mind about how terrible this would be. And so I went to bed wondering about that and praying for these children, that there would be someone to intercede. And it's not in the news today that I've read. And so I'm assuming that the judge ordered the flight canceled and these children repatriated to wherever they came from in the US, wherever they were being held, or something better. But I mean, if you ever wanted to create revolutionaries and you wanted to create adverse advocates to America, just keep it up. Terrorize little children. They don't forget. And what you're doing is putting a culture of hatred into the minds of little children who at some day will attempt to retaliate, to get even, because that's the nature of things. The response to that kind of cruelty is kindness. And so that was in the news, and that was sort of a sore point. As far as the Soul Report goes, this is something that we should all be, no matter where we live in the world, adverse to, and stop it. Speak up. Don't look the other way and say those poor children, oh my gosh. Because you see, God plays for keeps. If America is harming children that are not citizens, then the karmic view is going to be some retaliation to American citizens or children. And so we have to be mindful that the consciousness of the country, the consciousness of the earth, I'm saying this as a warning, as a suggestion, not as a proclamation, but we have to take care of immigrants, poor people, orphans, those who are downtrodden and in trouble. We have to, because it's the Christian way. And as the advocates and the Christian nationalists and other wonderful organizations who are proclaiming to be Christians, it is their duty, because Christ commanded Christians to do this, to be compassionate. Look it up, my friends. It's in the good book. So that was a particular sad point, and I feel sorry for people that are being kidnapped off the streets, people who are being cruelly treated for whatever reason. If they've broken the law, of course, if they're criminals, then they deserve the treatment that would have them extricated out of the country. But children, orphans, my God, that's terrible. So we'll move from that, leaving everybody with the idea, speak up. If you find that's horrific, don't condone the process, There has to be a way to be humane and Christian. Simple as that.
Mm.
Now, as we move forward in the show, there are advances making, or people are finding out that apparently there's a story about synthesizers that are used to enhance worship. When they use these synthesizers, that when they sing, people sing more enthusiastically.
Mm.
Apparently, I haven't seen one of that, and they're exploring a link between spirituality, their consciousness, and their real life. So, what does that mean?
Mm.
Well, it's the same thing. It's a story about the children. If you're worshiping and asking God for yourself, you should ask God for compassion and understanding to those people in need. However, this seems to be something that, here we go again, Les, old news coming around. That's why people sing in churches. That's why we have hymns, because it gets us closer to the Spirit. It makes us more spiritual, and it's much more aware. Artists across cultures from the 1980s to modern musicians were discovering synthesizers as tools for devotional and transcendental sound.
Oh, wow.
The instruments were described as metaphors for spiritual journeys. Well, in the East, we have the sound Om. In the West, we have tuning forks, and we have chakra sounds. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. We have 7 steps. And the human voice, when you say that, the voice, it sets up a vibration inside that affects the thyroid, which is the timing, balancing gland. It releases all the hormones. And in the throat, you have so many acupuncture lines or meridians going through that it's a major bridge for the vibration. And so saying vowel sounds or singing, what's it doing? It's affecting your nervous system. It's affecting the ley lines, acupuncture routes in your body. And things happen. What? Well, you relax. It sets up a vibration of harmony. It puts endomorphins out. It causes a balance in your hormonal structure. You feel peaceful and at ease. And of course, sounds and music act as spiritual portals, don't they?
Mm.
The
Mm.
people have long sensed that. Like electronic renaissance is like a soul's whisper, some people would say. And when you do quantum meditation or dream phrase connection through sound, you're connecting with your soul. So,
Mm.
old news going around, okay, repackaged, synthesizers put into a electronic aspect, and here we go. Modern life sustains our strains our nerves, and in a lot of people, increasing amounts all over the world. And people are turning to shamanic healing, to Reiki, to retreats, emphasizing shamanic release and spiritual renewal. You
Mm.
know, every one of the so-called ancient religions has devices, sounds. Look in Australia where they have that great big long horn, or the Buddhists who have those big long horns or trumpets, or in the Jewish communities in the East, there was horns and trumpets used, and on and on. I mean, I'm not telling our audience things they don't know. They're pretty smart. I'm just reminding them that, there's a connection between sound and the human breath.
Mm.
And it kind of like shifts your consciousness. It distracts you away from the strains and the worries. And it gives you a vibration, a higher vibration. Meditation with sound lifts you up. And so you have like a natural healing going on spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, and then physically. So
Mm.
there's a growing recognition among psychologists and neurologists, apparently, that spiritual practices like meditation, like we teach here, quantum meditation, and the idea of community and meaning can dramatically improve mental resilience, especially among youth facing anxiety and environmental stresses. Watch out for those internet chat lines and, get back into some social balance where these other things are giving you a sort of a sacral dislocation, you know? So essentially, emptiness as the root of modern mental health cries out for spiritually, if you will, fluffed up help. But neurological and emotional lifetimes, they want us to show the spiritual practices and help us how to cope in our lifetime. So
Mm.
there's a lot of platforms out there that are putting meditation tapes together. I have some on my website. I need to update them too. It's douglasjamescottrell.com. I have books that are available, and we have coming soon the Soul Report icon cup that maybe next week we'll have a couple of samples of that. And Les and I will be more than pleased to have you help us support the show by purchasing these cups. It's in the works. Les has been working night and day to come up with an amazing Soul Report coffee cup, tea cup, love cup, cup of hope, and we'll let you know about that. Go ahead, Les.
Well, I remember in one of your readings years ago, you mentioned how in ancient Atlantis they had a temple of sound for healing. And somebody would go in and bathe in these certain sounds, which would actually bring about balance to their bodies, to their chakra systems. So I guess this is nothing new. You know, interestingly enough, a lot of people are reporting tremendous problems with sleep now. They're having insomnia. They have very low quality sleep. And what's your take on that? Is it because of what we've been, listening to out there, or is it because of what we're bathing in these days?
Well, it's a combination. It leads into our comment just before about sound therapy, also light therapy. I did some experiments with people by putting them under different colored lamps, and including myself, and it strengthened me.
Hmm.
And so, looking at this just as a taste of what we're looking at, uh, there are people who have looked at vibration or frequency affecting the cells. And you might remember that was the Rife
Oh, yeah.
late, yeah. So Mr. Rife did a lot of experiments, and he was certain frequencies would destroy tumor cells,
Mm.
tumors in a body.
Mm.
Okay, the reverse is true. Vibration going through the body will enhance the body. For instance, lower frequencies will make bone grow and knit together faster. Higher frequencies will make flesh deteriorate.
Wow.
Okay? What is a laser? It's frequencies, it's light. Lasers destroy flesh. And so, sound therapy on the body, therapeutically, can be proven to speed up the healing in the body, like making a broken bone mend together. Okay, so fast forward to why are people having difficulty with insomnia? Well, my first sort of experience with people having sleep issues, challenges, was in upper Michigan near Escanaba, Laughing Gull Point, actually. And my mentor and teacher, Ross Peterson, was there, and he was telling the story. He was conducting a class, and he was telling a story about a client who had terrible, terrible nightmares, and he wasn't able to sleep, and he had great trouble falling asleep. And we were all, about 20 of us, listening in the class, and we're like, okay, Mr. Ross Peterson, you're the master. What was the solution? You know, we're all waiting. Some of the people in the class had insomnia issues as well. And this is the first thing. It leads into the rest of the answer. There was a man who had this problem, and before Ross got into anything metaphysically or spiritually, he said to the man, so tell me, how do you prepare for sleep? How do you go to sleep? Because people who know about sleep or people who are listening, when you go to sleep, you start off, you're awake, and you go down in brain waves,
Hmm.
alpha, theta, delta, etc. And as you go through that, when you get to the lowest brain wave, you're there for a few minutes or a small amount of time, and you wake up and you come back up very quickly, and you've had a sound rest. So if you can get down to those lower brain waves, you got it made. And that's why some people we know, I don't know if you know people, I know maybe one or two, they only need 4 hours a night.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
there are, okay, so there are people that get down to those deeper level of brain waves and they're fully rested. Okay. So back to the story. Here's the point. Ross says to him, "So tell me how you sleep." He said, "Well, I turn on the radio and I, put my head on the pillow, turn off the lights, and I can't get to sleep. And I have dreams about murders,
Eesh.
sirens, like ambulances, whatever." And we're all sitting there like the class, like neophytes we were, and we said, like, "Where's we go? Where are we going? This? What? How did you get all these terrible things?" And Ross casually said, "So I asked the man, 'What kind of radio have you got on?' And he said, 'Oh, I got one of those police scanners.
Oh no.
I listen to all the police calls.'" Ding!
Oh my God.
No wonder he was having nightmares of mayhem, murders,
Oh.
break-ins, whatever, because he was listening to the radio. But that was he liked that. He liked listening to the police reports. However, apparently in that man's world, two and two does not add up to four. It adds up to three or something. So with that, Ross solved the man's solution by saying, well, turn off the radio or do something else. So leading into the answer to the question is, why can't people get to sleep? It's because your mind's going like this. It's going in circles for people that are listening and not seeing me move my finger in the air. You have to prepare to go to sleep. You can't just go with your mind watching the news at 11 o'clock about people being kidnapped on the street, stuff going on in Moscow or India. Apparently, there was a big meeting between Putin, Xi from China, and the president of India yesterday morning. And, all these things are happening. So you can't go to sleep with oh my God, on your mind. So what you do is, my friend, my family doctor here, Ian, said, a couple of ounces of warm milk before you go to bed on your stomach, because there's a chemical in milk when you heat it up, it puts you to sleep.
Hmm.
The sessions that I would give, or the information I would give, would be a cup of slippery elm tea, because slippery elm tea coats your stomach, and that helps you go to sleep.
Oh wow.
Okay, and then you can take all this other melatonin, you can take, medications, whatever. But if your mind is worrying and you haven't gone through the process of a routine to go to sleep, like you do in the morning when you wake up, you have a routine, you go to the washroom, have a shower, brush your teeth, etc. You need to turn that around. Have a shower or a hot bath, reduce and relax the body. Do something out of the ordinary, but turn off that radio.
Right. Right.
These radios these days are cell phones.
Hmm.
Don't
Yeah.
just like shut it off and you're hearing texts and emails coming all night long. Shut it off completely. And by the way, here's a tip. The best way to protect yourself from invasion on your phone is to turn it off every day. That's the best scanner protection you can have. Somebody
Hmm.
told me that and I believe it. So we don't, sometimes people let those phones go for weeks. Turn them
Right.
off. But again, prepare for sleep. Have the discipline to take something on your stomach to settle your stomach down. There's a connection between the stomach acid, activities in the stomach, and your mind.
Hmm.
And your mind is going around and around and around. I was given a backhanded comment by a little old lady a long time ago who bought my meditation tape. And she said, "Douglas, I listen to your tape every night." CD it was. Back in the day when CDs were the in thing. Okay. Those are the round things that you put it in. Never mind. uh, your generation doesn't know about that. Anyway, so she said, "I sleep it every night." And she kind of had a little smirk on her face. And I go, "Uh-huh." And she says, "Yes. You see, I have insomnia. But if I listen to your meditation tape, it puts me to sleep every night."
Hmm.
So I took that as a compliment. So she was breaking the routine. So the answer is to your friends who have suffer insomnia, what are you doing about it?
Hmm.
Now, I understand I have a very stressful life when I was younger. I had those tossings and turnings. Something was going to happen. I had to take care of something or a situation, and it was difficult. I couldn't sleep. And then, of course, when I did fall asleep, I was tired. I didn't want to get up in the morning. I wanted to sleep in. So, having set hours of operation, if you will, like going to bed at 8 o'clock and getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning, whatever, change your routine, put something in your stomach, put pleasant smells or fragrances in your house. Don't listen to radios. Don't be on the cell phone. Don't be on the computer late at night. And don't worry, what are you going to miss something? Do you
Right.
have to get on social media? Did you miss something? And here's a test. When you're talking to somebody, if the phone rings, do you stop your conversation with your friends at the restaurant or in the car and take the phone? If you do, it's got control of you. It's a
True.
test. Let it go. It goes to voicemail. You can always call the person back or text them back. But how many of us, as soon as we get a text, we have to text back, or we get an email? That, my friend, is you're on your way to insomnia. So if you can look at it and say, like, okay, yeah, I'll get back to you. No worries.
Yeah, it's
With that,
amazing when people I have clients that when they get text while they're in session with me, and some feel they have to answer the phone. I thought, yeah, you're going to ruin your session. It's not going to be very good for you.
well,
But
rule time, little on the side of the door. All cell phones have to be shut off.
oh yeah, yeah. And I one time I thought I caught myself one day doing it myself. I was watching TV and I was just enjoying the show. I was watching a documentary and the phone went off and I immediately went to the phone. I thought, what did I do before I had a phone? I wouldn't, if they were going to call me on my landline, I'll get back to you. Leave it on their answering machine. I'm like, I have to go back to those days. It's a lot more peaceful.
Well, hi, this is everybody out there, and you can let us know on the chat, how do you deal with this? Take one day a week and see if you are the mastermind of your destiny, and you can put that phone down, leave it at home, and go outside and live your life. Because
Mm,
outside, you live your life, inside, you spend your life. Okay?
mm,
So if you can't do it for a day, how about 4 hours?
right.
Sure, you can. Yes, I can do that, Douglas. No problem. Okay, prove me wrong. Okay. Anyway, these are little tests on the Soul Report Live to help you get in touch with your soul, to be the master of yourself, to be self mastery. And this is one simple test. Can you do it? We'll see. And
And
anyway,
just
like, the big thing is, you just said, like somebody calls you or whatever, don't let them interrupt your life, my friend. You can get back to them. It's not that important.
I
Unless, of
came
course,
across
it's
this.
just somebody who's just saying, hello, Les. We're from the Powerball lottery and you won.
That's a somebody just sent me this thing. One of person listening to the show. It is from a Duncan Trussell. I don't know the person, but it says some poor phoneless fool is probably sitting next to a waterfall somewhere, totally unaware of how angry and scared he is supposed to be.
That's
Boy,
my
that
kind of
even. Thank
man.
you for that.
Exactly right. Yeah, totally unaware of how frightened and confused and how the world's falling apart, and and the accidents are happening, and there's vehicles on Mars and Venus, and somebody's mining green cheese on the moon now. It's proved positive. Let's start that rumor. Here we go. They're getting cheese from the moon. It was right. The man in the moon was blue cheese. That's what. Anyway, it's absolutely true. That's a, thank you for that caller, that text. That's exactly right. That's wisdom. Very good. Excellent. Hey, what's the riddle? Well, what's the riddle for this week, Les?
Well, the riddle is, Jack, do you want to put that up? Did we have it there? The riddle is, I have no voice and yet I speak to you. I have no body, but yet I may be behind clothes. I am not alive and yet I can be born and remember. I often guide you while you dream. What am I?
Let me say that. I have no voice, yet I speak to you. Hmm. I have no body, yet I may be behind clothes. Hmm. I am not alive yet. I can be born and remember. Wow. I often guide you while you dream. What am I? Okay.
Mm.
Send your answers into the chat. Oz will be more than pleased to take your your text in the chat, and we'll offer you the bragging rights of being able to say you figured that one out. That's a tough one. I think that's a tough one.
Pretty interesting. After a short break, we will be back with the time machine. See you on the other side.
Okay.
Are you searching for clarity, wisdom, and a deeper understanding of the spiritual world around you? Meet Douglas James Cottrell, PhD, a visionary author and teacher who's helped countless people transform their lives. His books are a gateway to profound insights, offering guidance, inspiration, and the tools you need to unlock your full potential. From unlocking your intuition to discovering spiritual truths, Douglas's books are your trusted companions on the path to personal growth. Don't wait. Start your journey today. Visit his website douglasjamescottrell.com to explore and purchase his life-changing work. Your next breakthrough is just a page away.
Well, I guess we're doing the mysterious and unexplained.
I guess we are.
Okay. Well, the question is, there have been recent ongoings on the moon. Somebody has been filming heavy equipment on the moon, and we think that somebody is mining the moon. We want to know your take on what's happening up there, Doug. Is it us? Is it somebody else? Is it another superpower from our planet? Is it ancient stuff? I remember watching something by Dr. Richard Hoagland, who made a very interesting documentary about the monuments of Mars and that face on Mars. As a matter of fact, you've done some dissertations on that in the past, and you claim that there were ancient civilizations that had left behind, paraphernalia, so to speak. Do you think this is what's going on? This is what they're filming is just ancient stuff that's been left behind on the moon?
Well, the moon's been around a long time, and it's a stepping stone to the universe as far as we're concerned. But there's been some recent spirituality resonant lunar news that's out there, and tonight on the Soul Report Live, we're going to give you rumors of the moon theme. India and Japan team up on the moon mission. There you go, India and Japan. A new collaboration between India and Japan for it's a Chandrayaan 5 mission was announced, focusing on lunar water and ice at the moon's mysterious South Pole. Everybody wants to go to the South Pole, Les, and I'm thinking there must be something really neat there. And of course, they're talking about ice and water, because anybody who can find water can colonize the planet, right? They have water. The water is the gift of life. So the partnership highlights peaceful exploration, shared vision, and scientific unity. Interesting that it's a collaboration between India and Japan. I guess they're trying to play catch up to the West a little bit, maybe get ahead of the game now. However, the U.S. plans lunar nuclear reactor by 2030, and that might be what's going on. The U.S. is fast-tracking plans to build a nuclear reactor on the moon.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, wow, eh? Aiming for permanent infrastructure at the sunlit South Pole. And that goes to a vision I had a few years ago, where I mentioned this on Coast to Coast Radio and on our shows on the Blog Talk and the Global Village, where I saw the moon, where people were living on the edge between darkness and light. And they had, like, I'm going to call them domed residences, but they were living close to the light, but they lived in the darkness. And the reason they lived in the dark side was because it was cooler. But they could go into the light if they wanted, and I guess get solar power and stuff like that. But here it is, nuclear reactor on the moon. Okay, why? Is there like a metropolis up there? Is there like a need for a nuclear reactor to put power up there? Okay. So let's see what happens. Well, technically strategic, it raises profound questions about the territory, stewardship, and space being a sacred place. no weapons allowed. Ha ha. The balance between exploration and preservation has to be carefully weighed. And there's another one here, asteroid 2024 YR4, that's Yankee Romeo 4, and the moon. New data from the James Webb Space Telescope shows a slightly increased chance of 4.3% that a city killer asteroid 2024 Yankee Romeo 4 might impact the moon in 2032. The likely result? A new crater. Yeah, I hope it's a small one, but if it's a killer asteroid, I don't know what that means. But the spiritual symbolism, cosmic collision, renewal, and I guess you could say, the imminence of even a greater celestial body, it's rich, it's rich. So, what's going on in the moon? The rumors swirl around the moon, not legends, but headlines. These tell of missions, reactors, and near miss asteroids, but beyond science, what is the moon trying to tell us?
Hmm.
Hmm. The moon speaks to humanity in silence with messages it is sharing tonight. Are we listening? The moon influences the tidal waves or tidal activity on the earth. What else does it do? So, by, let's say, guesswork, all this interest in getting there and doing all these things, especially a reactor, there's got to be something going on that they're not telling us, Les. My
Hmm.
intuition or my dream I had, they were going to colonize the moon. That's now a few years old. I think I was in Rhode Island when I had that dream back in the day, and doing a workshop there. And the bottom line is, what's going on? Are they mining it? I was joking about they're looking for green cheese there, but maybe I'm not so far off in my humor that maybe they're going to get things on the moon that we can't get now, like these special, remember in Ukraine, they're looking for these essential minerals
Hmm.
so they can make computer chips. I wonder if that's what's going on up there.
Well, it's interesting. Well, there was one scientist years ago, I remember he was saying, when fuel is not going to be a problem, if you can locate water on a celestial body, you can make hydrogen fuel from water. So he said his theory was even going to Mars shouldn't be a problem because all the fuel is there. We can convert the water back to hydrogen, which can get us off the planet and back to Earth. I would think feasibly, and also the moon is a great jumping off place. So the spacecraft we could build there would be a lot easier to build them in lower gravity to get them off the moon and out to Mars. I mean,
Yeah,
that's my thinking.
I agree. I've often referred to it as a gas station. It takes a lot of fuel to get break free of the Earth's atmosphere, but once you're out there, I mean, it's got to be like sipping little rocket fuel to go from one planet to another, or maybe from one solar system to another at first. So that could be it. But all of a sudden, there's a rush. India and Japan, everybody's getting on the bandwagon. The Russians have been there, Chinese have been there, Americans have been there. Who else has been there? Maybe somebody over here from Beta Reticuli or the Pallades over there. I don't know. Uh, but anyway, it's the nuclear reactor on the moon that floors me.
Well, interestingly enough, when they were doing, they just found that there was a 25. I just read this not too long ago. They were putting aside, I forget how many billions of dollars to build a railroad on the moon. Why would they need a railroad? I mean, obviously to get from one place to another. So they're thinking of something. It's got to be really aggressive. I think it's fascinating. I mean, who knows? Maybe your great grandkids will be living on the moon, Doug.
Maybe just the grandkids. Never mind
Yeah,
that.
you never know. It's just around the corner.
I was alive and well, and I was sitting in front of my little black and white TV set on the second floor of my father's house when Mr. Armstrong stepped on the moon. We all stayed up. It
Oh
was
yeah,
late. It
yeah.
was one of those moments when the whole world was watching one person step on the moon. One small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind. And I can remember that like yesterday.
Hmm.
So I see that as a special thing about the moon. And of course, now we have helicopters flying around on Mars, and we have rovers, and it's like yesterday's news. I saw that there was things on Venus where the Russians have dropped. I think it was number 10. They dropped it looks like I'm going to call it a cannonball, but it was more like a solid bell, and it finally landed on Venus, and it sent back reports and pictures for the first time ever of Venus. To me, that's like wow, like the moon, the Mars, and the Venus. Well, more like Mars and Venus. They look pretty much the same. They got mountains, hills, and they got dust and rocks and stuff. That's amazing to me. But again, uh, I come from that generation when I used to look up at the moon and wondering, are we ever going to get there? And then I went out that night that Armstrong and the other astronaut was there. Mine slips my mind. Lovell, I think they were out there on the moon, and I'm looking up there, and I felt a kinship with humans on humans. So to get back to the question, yeah, there's something terribly secretive going on with the moon, and my intuition is such. I see caverns, I see exploration. I've had the vision of colonization of the moon, and that's going to take place in my lifetime.
Yeah, there's one channel I follow, and that they've been actually finding these tubes, these volcanic ancient tubes on the moon. They said that they could easily live in to gather protection from the cosmic rays. But the funniest thing that really gets me is these people who think that we never went to the moon, and even these other countries who have been there now say, "Oh no, yeah, you got there, you got there before we did." So
Yeah. I can see it in the future. There's going to be like a Lotto Max lottery for $10 billion if you can find that golf ball.
yeah,
Uh, One of the astronauts
that's right. I remember that. He hit a golf
bounced
ball.
off the rover and it went off into the distance.
All right. After a short break, we'll be back with our segment called "The Time Machine." If Jack has it queued up.
Are you searching for clarity, guidance, and peace of mind? For nearly 50 years, Douglas James Cottrell has used his intuitive abilities to help people from all walks of life overcome challenges and make informed choices. During his clairvoyant consultations, Douglas helps you uncover the root causes of life's challenges, whether in relationships, health, or finances. He offers insights into your future and practical guidance to empower your decisions today. Available by phone, Skype, Zoom, or FaceTime, Douglas's consultations fit your schedule and lifestyle. Heal, evolve, be the person you were born to be. Book your clairvoyant consultation today with Dr. Douglas James Cottrell. Get ready for the time machine. Join Dr. Douglas James Cottrell and Les Hubert as they dive into history's greatest mysteries, untold facts, and curious events. It's time to journey through the unknown, right here on the Soul Report Live.
So, Doug, there seems to be a resurgence of interest in Vincent van Gogh, or as they originally pronounced his name, Van Gogh. He was the so-called inventor of expressionism. What is your take on Vincent? What kind of a person was he? What was going through his mind? Was he prolific? Was he suffering? Was he in pain? What was going on with him?
Well, like the whole point of Vincent van Gogh, as well as other people, where they were. My impression is that they were like he was, sort of stuck, one foot in heaven and one foot on earth, and so he was able to perceive, like a lot of people who have difficulties in the world, mentally challenged people. They can perceive the inner dimensions between dimensions, and they can see things that for us normal, vision, they we can't see these dimensions, and it's invisible to us. But people who have been who have studied, psychologists who have studied people who are in institutions, have found that they have high degrees of metaphysical abilities. They're able to see in between dimensions. And so I think that's what he was doing. And in some of those pictures, paintings, I should say, pardon me, he was able to draw these images, the same as Helen de Sloggy, who was a very famous painter. I met her personally at a show, and she sold her paintings for tens of thousands of dollars, and she was actually doing the same. She was a well-known artist, a very well-known person in her own life, and she was painting these pictures of these beings that were translucent, or they look like, let's say, pardon me for a very crude way of playing it, like little children who put a blanket over their head at Halloween time, and you get this draping effect. Only these were in different colors, and don't quote me uh, on exactly that if somebody has that painting or something, but it was be this idea that people would be looking at people like him, where we're looking at these dimensions within dimensions. It's kind of like my teacher once told me, if there's dimensions upon dimensions, and it's like if you look through them, they're like intermingled, they're translucent dimensions, but whatever dimension you're in, it's like a real place. For instance, right now where we're sitting, our listeners, our viewers, they could be sitting in another dimension in the same place they're sitting, and they're in the middle of a highway, and vehicles are going right through them, but they have different vibrational rate. They can't find them or see them, right? So the point being is, what was in his mind? He was in such pain. The image I have is like he was half in his body and half out. His brain was half and half stuck in this world, and the other half. Remember, one of the talking points, Van Gogh didn't paint what he saw, he painted what he felt. It's a very famous line. And what he hoped the soul could remember, he saw through that veil, as I'm indicating. And so that's what made him so special, because, intuitively, we all know the spiritual realms ourselves. We just aren't familiar with them. We're kind of vague. We forgot them.
Mhm.
But he
Sure.
was a visionary with a tormented soul. Again, I think the answer to the question, this is the point, is his soul hadn't completely migrated into the physical body. It was
Wow.
half in and half out. And
Oh
that's
my
why
God.
he walked the
Wow.
line between madness and transcendence.
It was strange when I saw his paintings. It's famous. It's called Starry Night. Everybody sees those boiling stars. And there was a time when I had an out of body experience. I found myself at night out in my backyard. I'm going, what am I doing out here? And I looked up at the stars, and they were boiling, just like Vincent Van Gogh's painting. I thought, oh my God, I get it now. So those little squiggly things that he would, like when you see like his beach paintings, you see these little squiggly. Were those entities that he was painting? Spiritual entities or things that he was seeing floating around on the other side?
I would say yes. Nobody knows for sure what was in his mind, but I've seen some of his paintings. They look like parentheses. That's what you're referring to?
Yeah, little commas, little asterisk, these little squiggly things.
Yeah, I've seen those myself uh, up on the ceiling at night. I could see little dots like stars in the sky, and then I would see these parentheses moving across. I haven't
Oh
done that
wow.
for a while, but I've taught people how to do that in classes in bygone days. So
Hmm.
it's a matter of looking up when everything's dark and you perceive the little sparkly lights, and then you might see these parentheses I'm calling, which are the squiggly lights you're referring to, as they go across. And I think that's exactly what he was doing. He was
Wow.
a visionary, and he had this tormented soul because he was half in his body and half out. Can you imagine what it's like? The image I have in my mind is this: you're half in a car,
Ugh.
and you're half out of the car, and the car is roaring down the highway,
Ugh.
and you
Poor
can
thing.
feel the wind and the sand in your face or whatever, the torment of being outside the car while the other half of your body's inside the car. That's the image I have now to describe what I'm trying to talk about. So, like many spiritual seekers today, he longed for this connection to God, of course, because he was half out. So he was halfway home, if you will, but he was stuck
Oh,
in the physical being in the other half in the physical world. So
oh,
one of the notes I hear is that he once studied to become a preacher before he started painting.
he did. Yeah, he wanted to be a minister.
Yeah, so he wanted to get to understand God. He wanted to be close to God, and then something happened where he couldn't deal with this. Something changed. I don't know. Something physical happened. Maybe he had some more spiritual experiences. Maybe he was influenced by beings in higher dimensions. But he's quoted as saying, I want to touch people with my art. I want them to say, he feels deeply, he feels tenderly. So, Van Gogh was on this quest. You know, he didn't paint what he saw, he painted what he felt. And
Oh,
that comes to mind is like somebody who's blind and you're trying to express or teach a blind person what color looks like. You're trying to tell a blind person what color looks like or feels like. And I understand that people can do that. I mean, people have some people have this phenomena when they hear music, they have this fluid array of video of color in their mind's eye.
hmm.
And they think everybody else does. And they're shocked when they find out people like me don't see that. But they do it all the time. So the brain, the mind, the system, all interconnected. Uh, Van Gogh was on this mission to, with his art, teach people how to feel. And in particular, he wanted them to know that he feels deeply and he feels tenderly. I'm not sure how to describe that to our listeners here tonight on what that means because I'm having the trouble of trying to teach a blind person how to see color and attempting to understand what he felt. But he moved the world.
Hmm.
He lived
Yeah.
in pain, he lived in suffering. Uh, Pleasure was not part of his world. Why? Because he was a tormented soul, and my impression is, and you can quote me out there, that he was half in his body and half out of his body. He hadn't fully, the soul hadn't taken on the full vibration of the body when he was born. Or,
Wow.
or possibly he had an out of body experience like you did, and he didn't quite get all the way back in.
Oh boy. I remember, I think when he was in the asylum, they used to treat him with like caffeine or something like that, which was the last thing they should have done. The poor soul. Well, thank you for that. That was very interesting. That was, I'm sure our listeners really enjoy that.
Well, one of his most famous paintings was called The Starry Night.
Hmm.
And it wasn't just a beautiful swirl of stars, it was a vision painted from the
Ah,
window of a sanatorium as Van Gogh looked up and tried to connect with the divine. Again, sort of supporting the idea that he was half in and half out of his body.
hmm.
The cosmic sky, the glowing moon, the pulsing stars all seemed to breathe with spirit. And he tried to connect them. The cypress tree connects earth to heaven, a spiritual ladder or flame. And the village below sleeps unaware of the mystery overhead. So here on the Soul Report, we're giving you sort of this information about a starry night, a map of the soul in searching of a home, heaven above and chaos below, but always in light. And we think that's my impression is that's what Van Gogh was going through. Could be right, could be wrong,
Why do you think there's a resurgence of interest in him now, Doug?
because we're all halfway in and out of our bodies. We're all going through this time of great travail. This is a time of chaos. Some people can't stand it. The pain is so great. And the world is crying out right now with the cruelty and the warfare and the indifference. Immigrants have been leaving their countries in Africa, going to Spain and into Europe. People in South America and Southern America and Latin America have been coming north to America and Canada. People have been going to Great Britain. People have been migrating into India
Mhm.
and China. And, what's going on? Well, they're not happy at home because something really bad is going on. And so they're trying to look for a better life, not an economic better life like it used to be. If you want to make $1 million, you want to get on that yellow brick road, you go to America and everybody's a millionaire. Everybody knows that all over the world, except the people in America. we're, we're all just working stiffs, right? But the idea was that we have to take care of each other, and if there's a big problem why people are leaving their country, why isn't it that the politics, the most powerful people in the world, why don't they go to those countries and put those greedy, self-serving, dictator type people in their place and say, you take care of your people. I've said this years and years ago. I say it today. You are the leader of the country. Yes, you can, step up to the trough and fill up and take advantage, but you have to take care of your people. And if you don't, we, the bigger nations being responsible for the world, we're going to replace you. We're going to find somebody else that really cares about their own people.
I
If
like
that could
that.
be
Yeah.
done, the immigration problem would stop overnight. There would be people who love their homeland, love their country, love to stay with their families, but they wouldn't be afraid in their own country. They wouldn't be financially raped, and they wouldn't be financially, emotionally, and so I'll call it spiritually abused by the tyrants in their country. I mean, that's what can go on. I'm not going to digress too much about that, but I've been saying this for years. And if I was president of the world, that's what I would do. I would go to the regional people in power and say, see me, I have all the power in the world. I have all the soldiers in the world under my command. And if you don't behave and you don't show me that you're qualified to be the president, the prime minister, the governor of your country, we're going to replace you and get somebody else. Maybe cousin Izzy or cousin Olive or cousin Mary is going to be a better leader. We're going to put them in place. So
Right.
shape up or ship out. The world would stop. The tyranny, the pain and the suffering would stop in a moment.
Mm.
Because those guys that are greedy, guess what? They don't want to be out of power, out of privilege. Because when they're not in power and getting privilege and all those other wonderful things about being at the top of the food chain, what are they? They're nothing. And usually when people get booted out of power, tyrants and bad leaders, what happens to them? They fade away and they pass away soon thereafter.
Mm.
So I'm not saying that's what I want. If I was the most powerful, if somebody when I was a young man asked me this question the answer he gave me was something different than what I'm giving, but I was shocked. I never thought of it that way. But if there was one president of the world, and there could be someday, then everybody else could run their own country, their own way, their own religion, their own commerce, but it would have to be for the greater good of the country. And you know what? Looking back in history, the greatest prosperity in the world for those countries was run by a benevolent leader who did just that. They took care of their countries. That's where we're going to go. But first, we got to get to this far extreme of letting these billionaires and the oligarchs and these people who are raping everybody financially because they're afraid of losing their own prosperity. Perhaps, I don't know for sure. I'm not one of them. I'm just a poor working guy. But we had that mentality, it would change just like that. I mean, we can see the logic of it, right? But corruption leads to injustice, and injustice leads to poverty. Poverty and pain lead to warfare.
Mm. All right. Well, the answer to riddle me this was a thought. If you remember the riddle.
I'll repeat it again.
I have no voice, and yet I speak to you. I have no body, and yet I am behind clothes. I am not alive, and yet I can be born and remember, and I often guide you while you dream. What am I? A thought.
A thought. There you go. Very good.
Think we wouldn't give him a cliffhanger.
Well, yeah, we wanted to let them know that we knew the answer before we, gave them the riddle. That we weren't just hoping somebody would answer that for us, like. Anyway.
So Anyway, we have a question from Civil Farmer. Does the Bible, oh, this is an interesting question. Does the Bible say anything about living in a world with AI workers or using AI, and whether this is acceptable to use AI, or is God's creation the only way?
That's about four questions in one there, because I'm going like about the answer. If I take that in summary, does the Bible say anything about AI? Well, Moses went up on the mountain and he got his version of AI. He came down with the tablets.
Hmm.
God spoke to him. Okay. I mean, AI, that's super intelligence. Christ was getting divine information because he was talking to angels, and his disciples were scared stiff. They saw him talking to angels, and he came and said, "What's the matter?" And he said, "I'm talking to the angels." So he was getting divine information. So, what's the latter half of that question?
Well, does the Bible say anything about living in a world with AI workers or using AI, and whether this is acceptable to use AI, or is God's creation the only way?
Well, okay, like it doesn't specifically say AI in the Bible, but it talks about spiritual gifts, talking in tongues. It talks about clairvoyance. It talks about prophecy. So there's a higher intelligence that we're getting in contact with. But most often it's like how we deal with each other, how we take care of each other. That's what the good books, there's several spiritual books, and that's what they're all teaching us, how to get along with each other, how to help each other, and help to deal with each other. Do we need AI like this computer-driven source of information, or is it from the great beyond? Well,
Right.
in biblical times, it was from the great beyond. Prophecy, uh, the leaders of the churches, if you will, the temples were all prophets, and so they were getting information from beyond, and they were using that to help people. I mean, if you want to look at it, like what buttons was the Christ pushing when he took some samples of fish and some samples of loaves and fed thousands of people, so much so that there was 7 baskets of garbage left over. And all they started off was a few loaves of bread and
Mm.
a few fishes. So, I mean, there's lots of people talking about the materialization effect, whatever, but the same as water into wine and things like that. But the idea is that the Bible talks about us taking care of each other and working with what we have, being mindful of what we have, being grateful for what we have, and praying to God always in a way that we want things and need things, and that whatever we ask for is going to be given. Ask and ye shall receive. However, there's two conditions to that. Ask for anything, but then you have to go and seek what you're looking for, your prayer to happen, and you have to go knock on doors. So you have to go ask people to help you. You have to do those two conditions to get whatever you pray for.
So, in other words, you're saying ask for the opportunity to get what you want.
No, it says ask and it shall be given. It doesn't say
Oh,
anything about limitations.
oh,
But
all
once
right.
you ask for something, then you have to be, and this is the teachings of me, is to be focused, go and seek wherever you can find it yourself, and then go and ask everybody, knocking on doors.
Oh,
Most people fall down on they kind of look haphazardly for whatever, and then they kind of casually mention. I've seen this in action with two different people who needed a car, two of them at the same time, and they both did the same thing. They asked everybody they met if they knew where they could get a car. Then they went and they actually visited people. One actually went to a used car dealership, and the dealer gave him a used car to use for a while.
wow.
Another one went to his son's girlfriend's mother's place, and she had an old car sitting out on the street that wasn't being used. He had to boost the battery up and pump up the tires, and he had that car. They both got cars within the same time frame for nothing, but they did the two things. They asked everybody they knew, and they went anywhere they possibly could to get a car. And that's the secret about getting anything you want, not to give up, not to doubt, and say, I need a banana sandwich. I'm going to get that banana sandwich. Do you know anybody that's got some bread and bananas? You go to a store and you say, I got no money. Can I have some bread and sandwich and bananas? And you might not get the first time, you might not get there, but the second or third time, the boss says, yeah, sure, come on in. I'll give you a banana sandwich. And by the way, would you like to sweep up the back floor? I can give you, in the back room, I can give you a couple of bucks too. So That's how prayer works. We all fall down in that we expect, you know, gimme, gimme, gimme. Oh, God
Mm.
doesn't take care of me. How many times have we know people in our life where somebody would say, and I've done this too, you offer somebody a job and they say, no, I don't want to do that. You got
Right.
no money. Well, I don't want to do that. Okay. So answer that. It's a long way to answer that question about what the Bible says about AI, but it's basically AI back in the old days was the connection, the spiritual connection with the divine. In the temples, the holy men. If you go to India these days, you'll find all over the country there are holy men and women. They are holy. They're not doubted that they might be seen crazy. They don't wear any clothes, perhaps, of some sex. They have no clothes. They want nothing, no material things, but they have divine communication. And so that's what we're looking for in ancient times or spiritual thing is this connection. We do meditation, contemplation. We attempt to get the higher spiritual realms by preparing ourselves with spiritual practices, which we teach at many mansions, International Ministries Church. And then you get familiar with the energies, spiritual healing, telekinesis, and the like. So yes, the Bible has all those abilities. Just was a little different back then than it is now.
Well, my take on it is a little different. You and I both love aviation. We both have taken flying lessons. And I remember you've probably heard of the old adage of, well, if man were meant to fly, he would have been given wings. And my thought was, well, if man wasn't meant to fly, he wouldn't have been given the brain to invent the airplane.
Which had wings.
So obviously, this is part of God's plan to use AI. It's just a tool, just like a gun. It can be used to hunt and gather food, or it can be used to protect you, or it can be used to instill harm. So I guess it's all up to us.
Well, somebody told us about electricity. There was
Yeah.
none of that not too long ago. Somebody told us about gas furnaces and oil burning furnaces, and that wasn't around too long ago.
Mm.
Somebody changed horsepower from horses with wagons and bridles to horsepower that the internal combustion engine. So
Yeah.
it's like everything else. So, the worst thing about the world that happened in the world was the internal combustion engine, which pollutes the world every day by millions of cars. The best thing about the automobile was that it was invented and we all get to move around and go anywhere we want. Saves lives, trucks, fire engines, transportation. So, like all things of importance, it's a balance in this material world.
Mm.
Any more questions out there?
Yeah, we got one from Larry Cruz from Facebook. Douglas, what are your thoughts on today's education system, woke culture in schools, colleges, sexual contents in books, and movements like feminism and Me Too shaping young minds?
We'll be right back for next week's show. Listen, like when it gets into specifics that are so extreme like that, this is something we all know. We lived long enough. I mean, and this is the thing. Everybody remember this because when I heard it, I didn't believe it either. But remember this, saying what goes around comes around. Um, if you tell somebody they can't have something, they will, when they get older, do everything in their power to get it.
True.
If you tell a
Yeah.
child they cannot have a slingshot, one of those things with a little Y in an alley, you tell them, forbid them, do not have it. The first thing that they will get when they're able and capable of acting on their own, they'll get a slingshot thing, or a gun, or a car, or whatever you say they can't do, they will do it because you're putting in front of them resistance. And human nature is tell me I can't do it, and I'm going to prove you wrong.
Mm.
That works really well for people who are really good managers. They go to somebody and say, well, I know, Sam, this is a big machine. The previous worker put out 100 pieces an hour. It might be a little too much for you. Like, I don't know if you can handle it. You'd have to really learn. And I don't know. I don't think you could do that. Oh, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. Are you sure? And Sam says yes, and then he tries to prove the boss wrong by seceding more than he thought he could. That's a simple management technique. Okay, so moving forward to uh, woke, sexual stuff, books, whatever. Hey, See this thing in front of you? It's called the internet. You think those little 7-year-old, 10-year-olds aren't on the internet finding out all about the stuff you told them they can't see, they don't know, stay away from? They're out there right now. And remember, the teaching is the pendulum swings one way and it swings back way. And if you look back in history, people who would consume alcohol were at some point in their society told that alcohol was forbidden. Look at the states when they went through prohibition.
Oh my God. Yeah,
Okay.
they created the gangster. Yeah.
The pendulum went one way, and guess what? It came back. Now, I'm going to use, because I'm familiar in Texas on the Wichita Trail and the cattle drives. All the cowboys were driving the cattle north, and they would get to towns. They would get their paycheck. They would go into the towns and they'd whoop it up at the local entertainment places, including the bars and other places, and they'd move on. Well, the towns became prosperous, and people moved to town, and then they said, we need a school, we need a church. And now what we don't need is a bunch of drunken cowboys out on the street, down at the local entertainment place, down at the bars. We don't want that here. And okay, so what happened? The cattle drive moved on up the trail, another 10 miles to the next house, the next town, and that prosperous town that was created withered and died
Yeah.
because there's no commerce. So the pendulum swing one way or the other. So what's the answer? Tolerance. Don't be afraid of what the kids are going to learn or not learn, because I guarantee all this book burning and denying of information and a reinvention of history, those little kids are going to say, so I can't have a slingshot? You just watch me. I can't get those books on sex. You just watch me.
Yeah.
You tell me I can't, whatever. So it's for me, being an older man and seeing this, having this played out before, it's kind of humorous in a sad way that the people that are saying our kids aren't going to do this, we're not going to allow them to do that, they are programming their children to do exactly what they say they don't want the children to do. Now, I'm not talking about manners, getting along with each other, living life. That's perfectly wonderful. But here's the ticket. Children learn by example. So if mommy and daddy are full of hate and suspicious and afraid, the kids are going to learn that too.
Mm.
So watch out what you teach your kids by example. So I've wandered a little bit from the question, but it's a very important one, because the answer is so simple that you tell somebody they can't do something, they are going to do it. You tell somebody they cannot have something, they are going to get it as soon as they can. So moderation, by example, understanding, like if somebody likes apple juice and you don't, well, that's, who cares? Let them
Right.
drink their apple juice. You don't have to go on a crusade to stop apple juice from being sold in stores. Okay, I mean, I might be overly simplistic, but that's the
No,
way.
you kind of brought the show full circle, Doug, because we started in the beginning of the show talking about how, like when my mom didn't want me to eat any chocolate, and she said, go ahead, have the whole bag. She wanted me to learn, and I got sick as a dog.
That's right. That's right. If you want your kids to learn how to be, think about it. If you want your kids to learn how to be happy, teach them 360 degrees about life. Don't try to teach your kids what you think they ought to learn, because what you're doing is you're teaching them things that you made mistakes at and you don't like about yourself. So you're trying to teach your kids to stay away from those things. And any psychologist, anybody who knows about children will tell you they have to make their own mistakes. They have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
And if you try to, like sequester a child so they're isolated and they don't make mistakes, what you're doing, pardon me for saying this, but you're creating a rather vulnerable, moronic type of person who's going to be susceptible to anybody's persuasion, anybody's commands, anybody's power over them. What you want is a kid that doesn't mind getting its hands dirty. It knows that if you get your clothes dirty, you got to wash them in the washing machine.
Hmm.
Anyway,
And our final question for tonight is from Marilyn, and she wants to know How do I know in this time of extremes, am I fulfilling my purpose in life?
Are you breathing? You're fulfilling your purpose right there. Life and purpose is experience of life, experiencing life. You live your life outside, you spend your life inside. So, do you want to go and learn how to ride horses? Go and do it. Yes, but I might fall off and get hurt. Well, but you want to learn how to ride a horse. Yes, I can't hardly wait. Well, take some lessons first. That's a guarantee that you might not get hurt. But if you want to jump on that horse, go right to it. But remember, you're taking an unnecessary chance. You need a little coaching or teaching. So the answer is, are you fulfilling your purpose? Are you happy? Remember, happy is the result of something else. Are you doing something that makes you happy? That's the secret. Are you curious about life? Are you surrounding yourself with likable people? Remember, if you're not liked somewhere, don't go there. Stay away from it. Are you fulfilling yourself that you feel satisfied, that you feel accomplished, that you've done something that you feel good about doing? Whatever it is, it can be really, really hard or it can be really, really simple. So the criteria comes down to understanding nobody is responsible to make you happy. You are responsible to make yourself happy. And how do you know you're fulfilling your purpose? You're breathing.
Uh,
You're just living your life and you're doing okay. Now, you might be a high achiever. You might be a low achiever, but at least you're achieving. But are you happy? And as such, if you are, then you'll face challenges and difficulties in your life knowing that God provided them. How many of us, Les, go and say, oh God, I pray for wisdom. I want to be the wise. So please, I want to have wisdom.
boy.
The answer to that is you're going to meet the dumbest people in the world. You're going to have to deal with them all so that you'll get wisdom on how not to deal with them or how to handle them. Oh, I want strength. God, please, I need strength. I want to be so. Okay. More problems to that one, Metatron. She's asking for strength. Give her a whole bunch of problems to solve so she's going to be stronger. I went through those questions. I'm making fun of it, but the point is this. You ask for something, and to get it, you have to earn it. Period. You want strengths, you're going to have to do problems. So I want to know how to have a really easy, relaxing life. I just want to know how to do that. I want to have, God Almighty, I want to learn how to be so easy and calm and peaceful. And so God's going to give me what? Easy, peaceful, kind things to do. I'm being a little comedic about it, but the point is this: if you're breathing, you're living your life, and you are succeeding because you're experiencing life. If you don't like what you're doing, change. In the Christian Bible, it says, Christ said, if you don't like your right arm, if it offends you, cut it off. Wow, that sounds horrific. Okay,
That's the answer, amputation.
for everything. Okay, that isn't what he meant. He meant something's offensive to you, even though you like it, get rid of it. I was wearing a watch once, and it put a red thing on my wrist. And I wore it all the time, and I was constantly moving it. And I was talking to the Baroness one day, and she said, "What's the matter?" I said, "Oh, my wrist. It's the metal. It's flaking a little bit, and it's irritating." She said, "Well, why are you wearing it?" Ding. I was wearing it because it was sentimental. I've had it for a long time, but it was bothering me. So there you go. That's a prime example of if something's bothering you, dispose of it, get rid of it, avoid it, and go only where things are making you happy. But Les, human nature is such, we don't like the easy way. We like the hard way.
Mm.
If you notice, if you notice that, my friends, you'll always do the hard thing. You won't do the easy thing. Oh no! I play solitaire. I win all the time. I want to learn how to play poker. and you lose your shirt playing poker, but go back to solitaire, you get the satisfaction because you can do it easy. We are creatures of habit, but we have bad habits. And I'm talking about bad habits, meaning we always seem to want to do things the hard way.
Hmm. Yeah.
Wise
Yeah.
people go, let's see, I can live on the 10th floor of that wonderful penthouse building up there, or I can go across the street and live on that first floor of that moderate, medium sized place. Let's see. Walk up 10 floors, elevator, moving, walk across the street, walk in front level. I think I'll take the one on the first floor. So says the wise person.
It's interesting. There was an analogy that just came to mind. I had a friend of mine, her and her partner, they were traveling through Italy and they were driving and they came across this cute little Italian restaurant. And just to wrap up the show with this little story, they went into this cute little Italian restaurant and they sat down to this cute little table and they asked for a menu. So the waiter, long, cut with mustache and the typical Italian waiter, he comes over, he goes, "Hey, here's your menu." So they say, "We'll have this, this, and this." And he said, "No." "Okay, well, then we'll have this, this, and this." And he went, "No." So they said, "Well, what can we have?" He said, "I'm going to make you a delicious antipasto. You're going to have the local wine. It'll be delicious. And I'll bring it right up." So I said, "How did it go?" She said, "It was delicious and the wine was fabulous." So they finally asked him, "Why did you give us a menu?" He said, "Because you asked for a menu." Talk about life, huh?
Hey, what's the matter, you? Eh?
You wanted a menu. I gave you a menu. I thought to myself, "But that's a great analogy for life." Well, next week, up and coming shows, we'll be talking more about interesting things such as Nikola Tesla, and we'll be covering things like the Bermuda Triangle as far as mysteries and unexplained. Any final thoughts on today's show, Doug?
Watch out, it's going to be cold. My cherry tree in the backyard is already losing the leaves. Predictions that I've come across here and there, willy-nilly, is that looks like we're going to have an early fall and it's going to be cold. Pray for the people that are being cruelly treated around the world and do whatever you can to help. And remember, what you give out comes back to you.
Hmm.
And whoever wins that $1.1 billion, would they please remember me in their prayers and maybe contribute to the show about 10%, a little tithing. We would love to have that. That's our prayer. We're asking everybody, should they win the lottery, that they'll help support us. Otherwise, when we get our brand new Soul Report, what can we call that? Mascot or icon cup that Les has designed, spent hours and hours and hours sweating over a hot stove to come up with this design. We'll probably have them here next week for you, and we'll let you know where you can get them. My website is www.douglasjamescottrell.com. Please buy my books. I have some sitting in my storage that just are looking for a nice home. They're orphan, they want to be loved, and they want to sit on your bookshelf and be comfortable and welcomed. And of course, it'll be a good read.
Oh, yeah,
Until
very
next
good
time.
read. I can assure you of that. Very good read.
Yeah, here on the Soul Report, we're really happy that you've joined us, my friends. Uh, we're here to be of service to you, so we want you to let us know how we can help you, what we can do for you, and if you can, take uh, the Soul Report and spread it around to your friends, we would really like it. I mean, basically, we're here to be of service to you. So if you can, let everyone know that we're out here and we're available and that we're here for you on the Soul Report Live. This brings us to an end of another Soul Report, but not to the end of the journey. If anything stirred your heart tonight, if a thought, a memory, or even a dream rises after this show, that could be a little bit of that energy given off to the show tonight. Follow it. This is your spirit speaking to you. Remember, the spirit speaks through dreams and visions and visitations and through meditation. Remember, you are not here just to survive this world. You are here to transform it. One loving act, one truthful voice, and one sacred breath at a time. Please take a moment to subscribe, like, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. You'll find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok under my name, Douglas James Cottrell. I'm saying goodnight tonight with my good friend and host Les Hubert and our wizard behind the curtain, Jack Balak. We call him the Wizard of Oz for short, and he is amazing at what he does in producing this show. Until next time, stay aware, stay kind, and stay connected to the truth within you. This has been the Soul Report Live with Doug and Les and Jack. Good night, my friends. God bless.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling.